Welcome, Kelly, and thank you so much for coming to our meeting. I'm so happy to have you. You're our honored guest. And if you would want to tell us about your story, I would love to hear.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. So, 15 years ago, it was actually a little more than 15 now, 15 and a half years ago, I was 25 years old and I was kind of a newlywed. My entire life, I'd struggled with weight. I was kind of the chunky kid and I was always said, like, you look like your daddy, which, no little girl really wants to hear. I didn't really get what that meant. All I knew was my dad was pretty heavy and I was pretty heavy. My mom and my brother were the skinny ones, and I just wanted to look like my mom. And my brother, who is now a really nice guy, but he used to say, like, fatty a lot. That was kind of the word he would say to me. And, that was hard. I just wanted to be little and cute and to be able to eat everything like he did. He ate exactly like I did. The same table. We were both eating the fat-free oatmeal, fat-free cereal that was given to us, fat-free cookies, because I think my parents, especially my mom, she's never said this even now, but I'm sure she really wanted me to be less fat. So it was a lot of fat-free things. And by the time I got to middle school, I was still quite large. But in high school, I really learned, like, this is important enough, I want to starve myself. So I would eat so little. I was that desperate. And I found that I could lose weight. I would exercise. I remember going to a track and just running and running and running on almost nothing, no fuel, wanting so badly to be skinny. And I started to lose weight, and I was miserable. Boys started to notice me, though, and, I had a little boyfriend who was commenting on, oh, you're looking so good. And I was like, yes, it's happening. I'm finally getting skinny. But as we all know, that's very short term, not sustainable at all. As soon as I would finally give in, it would come back twice as fast as I'd ever lost it. In college, I really tried even harder. I would have binging episodes. I never could actually make myself throw up. I just couldn't. But I wanted to, and so instead of throwing up, I would just not eat. I would sometimes go, one time I went 12 days without eating, and it wasn't considered fasting. I was just literally trying to lose weight just for looks. It wasn't for health at all. I never cared at all about health, to tell you the truth. I just wanted to be smaller. By the time I got married, I weighed 145 pounds. My wedding dress was a 22, 24 in the U.S., and then over the next couple of years, I gained another 20 pounds. But the real thing that kept sending me to the doctor was I was having these boils, abscesses, like large bumps that were filled with staph infection. They would have to be cut, lanced, packed, drained. It was disgusting. For people who are still dealing with that, and I found out there's a whole community of people who still struggle with this, I am so sorry. That was awful. The places would sometimes get cellulitis around them on my legs, so it was very hard to walk. And at that point, I went to the doctor. I was 262 pounds, and he said, all right, we keep having to do this. This has been our routine lately, and we're going to keep doing this probably until death do we part, because the issue is you need to lose 100 pounds, and it's because your weight issue and the staph infection issue is the same. It's inflammation. He was the first person I've heard to say inflammation, and that was over 15 years ago. The guy was awesome. And, I cried because I didn't know how to reduce inflammation, but he told me it's the carbs. He had to explain to me what carbs are, how to avoid them. I did so for a year, and I lost 80 pounds, and I felt so good. But then the next 4 years, I stopped feeling so good because I was doing this super low carb thing. And at times I would try to cut way back on fat because I still had it in my mind that fat was the enemy. And I started exercising more and more. So for 5 years, I was just wearing myself out. But it was working. I was skinny. And I didn't look horrible, but I was getting like the sunken eyes look. And I just didn't look well. People were starting to say, even though I was the exact same weight I am now, and nobody says this to me now, I'm about 140 pounds, people were starting to say, like, oh, you've lost too much. And I was like, but I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be on the BMI chart. But 140 pounds can look really different from 140 pounds. And I was starving and working to get there, so I looked bad. And now I'm just sitting on my tail most of the time eating meat all day. So 140 pounds, to myself, I think I look a lot healthier than I did back then. Nobody's telling me nowadays that I'm too skinny. I think I just, even though I'm the same weight, it's a healthier 140 pounds. And so at the end of those 5 years, when I was really tired and hungry, that's when I discovered Zeroing In on Health, which is now a Facebook group, but it used to be a forum of journals, like hundreds and then even thousands of pages of journals of all these carnivores who were just writing their stories down. And I read their journals, saw the before and after pictures. I talked with Charles Washington almost every single day. He was the leader of that group. And Lisa. Lisa was there, and she was such a dear friend and inspiration. I was whining because at first I gained weight, but I really wanted to get my cycle back and be pregnant because in that 5 years, at some point I had stopped menstruating, so I really needed to get my health back. And with their help, I stuck with it. About 6 months after I started Carnivore, my cycle came back. I stopped gaining weight. About a month later, I got pregnant. And now I've had 3 zero-carb pregnancies. It's 10 years after that now, so it's been 10 years of total carnivore. And 5 years before that were just really low-carb, kind of like keto, but without the tasty foods. It was just like a very low-carb, and it was a struggle. The cravings were so real. And now I just feel sweet freedom, and I love carnivore and plan to eat no other way.
Wow.
Whew, how's that for an intro?
That's great. That's great. Can you tell me a little bit more about your pregnancies? Like, did you do zero carb in your pregnancies?
I did, but it was a little scary. So now I know that Charlene Anderson had already done this, along with, entire civilizations of people.
Yeah.
Like a long time ago. But at that time when I found out I was pregnant, first time mom, I was just very nervous. If you've had a baby, you know that feeling where you're scared about everything. And I had doctors saying what they say to most pregnant moms: you need more fiber, more fiber, more fiber. Eat your colors, eat the rainbow. And I was like, well, I'm only eating brown. Brown is my only color of the rainbow right now. And I felt nervous, like, am I hurting my baby? And Charles, he said, look, you're a human who feels better eating only meat. Your fetus is a human, just a tiny human. If you feel better and you feel like this is best for you, why would it be any different for your child? Okay, so
makes sense.
It made sense to me. I did have a different carnivore diet during the first trimester of each of the 3 pregnancies because my steak and burgers, I had real meat aversions to them. So I was eating a lot of eggs, bacon, and sausage, which is kind of like sloppy zero carb to me. It felt like I was being slack, but at least I was zero carb. Oh, and cheese, a lot of cheese.
Because you did have an aversion, though?
I did, even though I had been zero carb. Well, by the time I was pregnant, I'd already been zero carb for several months with my first pregnancy. By the time my third one, Annie, came, I'd been zero carb for several years. She's only 3. And I still had meat aversions during the first trimester. The sight of like rare meat, I couldn't take it. Chicken, total turn off. But more cooked meats, roasts, sausage, bacon, eggs, cheese, all of that sounded fabulous. And I ate tons of it. And I did not have any of the normal, what we now consider like normal pregnancy issues. I had no high blood pressure. I didn't have blood sugar issues, obviously, that a lot of pregnant women had. No constipation, which, lots of pregnant women deal with hemorrhoids and constipation, despite having no fiber at all. My doctors were kind of amazed by this, but most of the long-term carnivores were like, well, duh, why would this be any different? So you're pregnant, you're still a human too. And now I have 3 kids.
Well, I know, and they're so precious. I saw them in your videos on your YouTube, and
thanks.
I enjoy watching them. And speaking of that, they ask, how do you feed your kids?
I think I would probably prefer if they were total carnivore, but my husband is just a standard American diet kind of guy. He is so far kind of getting away with it. You know, like his blood work numbers get a little worse every year. His weight gets to be a little more of a struggle every year, but he's like most Americans where he's thinking he's fixing it by just getting on that elliptical machine in the mornings. But he's a good guy and a good dad, and I kind of work with him on that. So before they were ever born, we agreed that if they wanted vegetables, they could have vegetables, not potatoes, not grains. But if they wanted lower carb vegetables, they could have them. And then a very limited amount of fruit. I do try to keep that from them, but it's more of a treat. But they've never had sugar or like regular flour, wheat, crackers. They've never tried candy or a regular cake or anything. And they actually have amazing appetites. They love meat. And all three of them have told me, someday I'm going to be a carnivore. And I'll say, you don't have to. I don't want them to feel like they're disappointing me by not doing it.
Right.
But they think that's what they want to do. So I don't know. But for right now, I would say they are low carb, fairly high fat. They don't take like fat bombs or anything, but they definitely love really fatty meats. They eat a lot of really fatty meats. And then sometimes there's a vegetable on the side.
Yeah, that's cool. They're very cool. There's our other hostess for this meeting is Sarah, yes. And she's pregnant. And
yay! Congratulations!
She said it makes her feel so good to hear that, and she cannot eat beef right now for anything.
Okay, yeah, that's a thing. I know. You would think that if that's all I was really eating, that I would have been totally adjusted. No. Now, after the first trimester, I was able to go back to pretty much regular. Yes, hang in. It did get better for me at least. And as soon as they were each born, I felt completely back to normal.
Oh, good. Yeah. Okay. Do you recommend fasting or do you not recommend it?
All right. Well, I don't fast because I love to eat. I don't eat often, though. So for me, I think it's really important to just define what we're calling fasting. To me, my definition of fasting is I am hungry. I want food. I feel like I need food. But the clock says not yet, so I don't do it. To me, that's what I consider like purposeful fasting. Sometimes I go really long periods of time without eating, but in not fasting, I'm just not hungry. So I typically eat a huge lunch, a small dinner, and then I'm not hungry again until lunch the next day. Oh. But if I were to get really hungry, I just eat and I know that there have been people whose hunger signals have been really thrown off. And so for them, for a while, they may need to rely on a clock to help them get through that. Mm-hmm. But I think our hunger signals are there for a reason. If we were eating carbs, you can't trust that. You could walk past a donut and not even be hungry, and you're gonna want the donut, right?
Right.
But we're not eating junk. We're eating real fuel, real food. And if your body looks at a steak and thinks, man, I want a steak, you're probably hungry. Eat your steak. It's real food. You're not being tricked. Now, if you're using a lot of sauces, a lot of cheeses, a lot of seasoning, I do think you can get some false hunger signals. And I think we've seen some people gain weight, even on carnivore, because it's just the taste that they're after. And so sometimes we'll recommend just go back to some more basic beef, water, keep all the sauce and the cheese out of this so you can really tell if you're hungry. But if a plain piece, even with salt if a plain piece of salted beef looks good to you, you probably need to eat.
Yeah, that makes sense. How about coffee? Do you drink coffee?
I do still drink coffee. Now, my first 2 years of carnivore, I did not touch coffee. For one thing, I was trying to get pregnant, and then I was pregnant, and I was nursing. And then also I kind of just wanted to try carnivore without it at all. We were kind of hardcore back then. For a long time, I would not touch salt, pepper, any seasonings. I was like, it must be unseasoned meat, only water, no seltzer for any of us. We were like, Lisa, you know this is true, right? We went through some hardcore, bare bones carnivore. So for a couple of years, I didn't drink coffee. And then I thought, well, I'm going to try. I was tired. I had new babies. I was weaning them, but, so I tried some coffee, and I really couldn't tell any difference, to tell you the truth. And some people will say, yeah, well, coffee is a bean. And I'm like, yeah, well, I'm not eating it, right? It's the water that touched a coffee bean. And if it bothered me, so if I had issues, I would stop, because I do feel like health first. If I was having cravings, or if I was suddenly awake with leg cramps or something, fine, bye-bye coffee. But if I'm feeling okay, I'm going to drink my coffee bean water, but no coffee beans, because that would not be carnivore.
Right. Do you drink cream in it or just black?
Heavy cream, no sweeteners, of course, but a little bit of heavy cream. I have to watch it. If I drink much cream, I do get like a drippy nose and sometimes skin breakouts. I really can tell much more of a difference in regards to dairy than I can the coffee. The coffee by itself seems okay. And if I sound like an addict saying that, I get it. You can stay away from coffee if you don't want it. I won't judge you for drinking or not drinking the coffee, but I still enjoy it.
Okay, we have another question. And
okay.
If I want to lose weight on carnivore, should I fast?
All right. I never personally recommend fasting for the reasons that I said. I've seen people get really overly hungry and then they succumb to cravings. But at the same time, like I said, some people come to carnivore and have no idea. Their hunger signals are just so skewed that they have no idea if they're hungry or not. And so I have known carnivores to say, look, eat a big meal, then try to go several hours. If it gets to be too much, for Pete's sakes, have some meat, not a donut. But if you can, just try, and then your body gets more and more used to going long periods of time. Charles would say, absolutely not, because your body was malnourished before. The more meat you eat, the better. So I know that there are two different trains of thought on that. I'm a little torn about it. I don't fast, and I don't think it's best. I mean, let's imagine, what if you could get the exact same results without going hungry? Which would you pick? I would prefer to feel like full and happy and not watching a clock and just be like, oh, I'm hungry. Now, if somebody says, yeah, but I can't get the same results, well, I'll leave that between you and the Lord, I guess. But I just know what's working for me at the moment, and I don't like it. I just don't enjoy fasting myself.
Zero carb is kind of mimics fasting, doesn't it?
It does. In studies, they really can't tell a difference between a body that's carnivore versus a normal person that's fasting. The hormone levels are so similar. The blood sugar response is the same. Glucose levels, ketone levels. It's like you're already getting the same benefits, except you're not hungry.
Wow. Yeah.
I know. So for me, if I had to choose, now I've heard like Michaela Peterson, she says she loves fasting, and I look at her side-eye, I'm like, how? I don't know what there is to love, but I know we're all so different. Not everybody loves everything the same. I just don't like being hungry. That feeling to me of when I'm thinking about food feels sad. If I don't eat, that just feels sad.
Yeah. Have you ever gained weight during your time on carnivore?
The first 6 months I did. So I was really starving myself right before I started carnivore because I was just to maintain. I was like desperate every morning to not see any little bounces and ounces on the scale. I was watching like, oh, please, make sure I peed, make sure I got my clothes off, step on the scale every day. I was a nervous wreck. If it went up 2 ounces, I was like, oh my gosh, what did I do yesterday? Let me check my fitday.com.
Oh no.
Ridiculous. I don't live that life at all now. I don't even weigh myself but 2 or 3 times a year. Because I'm eating the same, I'm living the same, I just keep weighing the same, my clothes fit the same. It's been years. but I was a slave to it back then. My whole day was determined by what that number said. And I don't know, what's the question? Oh, did I ever get Yes, I did for 6 months, and it was hard because I went from being hungry and exercising to then just sitting and eating meat, and I do think that was an important step. I think even your bones can get more dense. Your organs can get more dense. I think your muscles get more dense. You're recompositioning, and it was okay. It didn't feel okay at all because it was about 20 pounds. And in my mind, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm getting fat again. It's happening. This is terrible. I panicked. Lisa was there for a lot of my whining and panicking. But it was, and they kept saying, would you look at yourself? You're okay. Just calm down. Get some looser clothes for a while. I was like, looser clothes? I'm not going to buy bigger clothes. But I know it's scary. It sometimes happens, but it's temporary. I think it's important, and it'll be okay.
Yeah. Okay. So if you're out and about and you're wanting something to eat, do you eat anything besides your meat cookies?
I do go to McDonald's a lot. It's just beef. They don't even freeze it anymore. There's no pink slime in it. It's literally ground up cow with salt and pepper. And if you don't like seasoning, just ask them. Just say, please leave off all the salt and pepper. They will do it. I've even asked them before, please don't cook it quite as much. Now, some McDonald's are like, whoa, we have to cook it all the way through. It's a standard. And then others, I've had them leave just a little bit of pink in the middle for me. And I'll say, could you make them extra juicy? They'll work with you. It's just beef. We have a ton of people who are incredibly sensitive to vegetable oils, which they do not use on their grills for meat. We have people who are sensitive to fillers and seasonings, and they can handle... They are broken out and having gut issues if they eat any of those things. Yeah. But they can handle McDonald's quarter-pound beef patties. So I feel like it's a really safe choice when you're out. Otherwise, I can go pretty long amounts of time. Sometimes I'll pack some purse bacon. You know, yeah. If I know I'm going to be out, then I'll throw a Ziploc baggie. Or every day for lunch, I bring a tub with my 4 beef patties. But obviously at restaurants, if I'm going out somewhere nice, I'll probably just order a steak.
Mm-hmm. So, like, you know, a lot of people talk about fasting for autophagy. I think that's how you pronounce it. I don't know. But do you think it happens when you're eating meat? And I think the autophagy is like eating up the skin cells where you got extra fat under your arm or wherever you have it when you've been heavier weight.
I don't know. I don't know. I'll tell you the truth. I think it happens. I know that when I first lost weight, I don't even know if this is really related, but people do ask that, speaking of arms, that I have a lot of loose skin. So my arms were really big before. I would never wear any sleeveless shirts. When I lost weight, I was definitely saggy for a while. I did not have to have any surgeries or procedures. Just with time, that tightened up. I don't know. I wish I had a lot better answer for this. I guess, I don't know. That's my official word on that one.
Did you ever experience constipation?
No, I didn't. I know that when people have, of course, we say just eat fattier meats, up your fat. If you go and ask your butcher for some fat trimmings and you eat that, you won't stay constipated. Just make sure you are near the John because you will be going. High fat meats, it'll get it going. If you need the opposite, if you're going too often, just aim for leaner meats and ask for something more trimmed or trim it yourself. But typically, and some people, I know keto people tend to go for butter, but I would prefer for myself animal fats, like an actual from the meat.
Mm-hmm. Do you ever eat avocados, and why or why not?
No, I don't. Here's a funny story. One time, Women's World asked me if I would like to do a zero-carb carnivore article, and I was like, yes, of course. That's a big deal. So I did, and I mean, of course, I gave the interview exactly. It was total zero-carb carnivore. Opened the magazine, and there was a picture of an avocado next to me. Right next to me, like my friend, an avocado. I was like, are you kidding? I don't eat avocado. It made it look like, now they didn't quote me as saying like, avocados. It was next to my head. I was so aggravated.
Oh my gosh.
I know, but no, I don't eat anything other than, like, I do pepper my steak, so I guess that's technically plant. But I don't eat any vegetables.
Like, how could you lose the last 5 to 10 pounds if you needed 5 or 10 pounds more? Do you just keep doing what you're doing?
I do feel like if you keep doing what you're doing, I sincerely feel like you will end up where you're supposed to be. As long as you're just eating meat, I don't know of any like 10-year carnivores that are still waiting for that last 5 to 10 pounds to come off. Yeah. I don't know any 7-year carnivores that are like, man, if I could just get rid of this gut. I don't. Yeah. I think they've all ended up where they would like to be. Does weight fluctuate some? Yes. Do I think cutting out cheese, if you're doing anything other than meat and water, then yeah, there's something you could do. Try that. You can always try that. Go simple. If you're including a lot of dairy, that'd be my number one thing. If you're even doing coffee and not happy with your weight, try that. If you're using a lot of salt, well, maybe try using less salt. There's tweaks. I'm not saying there's nothing you can do, but in general, if you're just eating meat, I feel like eventually you're going to get where you want to go. There may be ways to go there quicker. Some will say, I bet if you fasted, you get there quicker. Well, yeah, because you're not eating food. It wouldn't matter what diet you're on. You could be on the donut diet. Donut dieters, if they were to fast, they're going to lose weight.
Right.
Right?
That's true.
I mean, you're not eating. So yes, you will get there faster. Your weight will drop. But will it stay off forever? I don't know. Will you get hungry? Is it sustainable? Can you be happy? I feel like if you can't answer this question, can I stay on this diet and be happy? Then maybe it's not worth doing. I can completely say yes. I'm not working out. I'm not killing myself in a gym. I'm not going hungry. I'm not doing anything that feels unsustainable. I could do this forever and I feel so happy. But I think we overlook that question sometimes. And it's shouldn't just be like, can I do this diet and fit into these pants? Sure, you could starve yourself and fit into your pants. Or you could do something that gives you a good life. This is our one chance at this life. I mean, even if you believe there's another one to come, I do. But this is our one chance at this life. So you might as well find a way to make it workable and to be happy, not just skinny.
Right. That makes sense. So, like, you're 10 years carnivore.
Yes.
And where did you see your most health benefits? I'm sure in the beginning. Did you see any extra health benefits in the years following?
Okay, so the main thing is I haven't had a boil in 15 years.
Oh, wow.
Not one. Acne, I used to take prescription medication for acne. I'll admit that I still get about one zit a month.
Oh.
You know. And so that's how I know, okay, it's coming. But typically just one and more if I do more dairy. But that's a huge improvement for me. The cravings, that was the biggest change going from zero carb. Because low carb to zero carb. Okay. I had already stopped having the boils. But then when I dropped all of the final sweeteners and stuff, that's when the cravings went away. That was my biggest benefit is no cravings, not having to try so hard. I was just trying. It was 5 years on low carb of so much trying and willpower. And now when people say you have such willpower, I really am. I mean, I say thank you. Thank you. I really don't. I don't feel like I have to use willpower anymore. You know, just like I'm going to assume that a lot of us are not addicted to cocaine. I am not. I do not feel that I'm using any willpower right now to abstain from cocaine.
Yeah.
Okay, it's easy. If you were to offer it to me, I would be like, no thanks. That's easy. An easy no, right?
Right.
But when people have little bits in their system, that's when it becomes willpower. That's when you're struggling is when it's in there. And so for 5 years, I felt like a recovering cocaine addict. And now I feel like the lame girl who never tried it in the first, no, not lame. I feel like the girl who's never tried it in the first place. So it's easy to not want the other stuff.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I see the question about did cramps get better? Oh my gosh, I should have said this. I used to have really bad cramps. I would get up and pace the floors at night, just, holding my stomach and heating pads. Other than that one zit a month, I have no symptoms. If I didn't look in a toilet, I don't cramp at all. I do not feel cravings amp up. I can't even really tell my appetite changes. I feel nothing anymore that's different about it. That is crazy to me. That's a huge change. Oh, alcohol. If my mom was watching, I would say never, because I don't talk a lot about alcohol. It's not, I grew up Southern Baptist, and it's a little bit of a thing. Even if you do drink alcohol, you definitely don't talk about it. But if someone else were to drink alcohol, I would say that if you're having any issues at all, try cutting that out, just like the coffee or the dairy. But if you're able to go out and socially have a drink, I would definitely go with something not sweetened. Don't put it in soda water maybe, but not soda. Nothing sweet, but if you were going to have a bourbon or a gin or something, there are carnivores that have had good results doing that. I don't think anybody's drinking a lot all the time, but if they were to go on a date night once in a while, it would probably be okay, unless they were Southern Baptist. Don't do it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, Kelly, thank you so much for talking with us and being with us. I so appreciate you coming. It's been wonderful to have you at our meet.
This has been great.
Good day. Yeah. And I'm going to open up the microphone so let anyone talk to you or ask you questions. Sounds good?
There you go. The host is on.
Okay, and if you want to ask a question, you can keep your microphone muted if you'd rather. You can also, in the chat area, there's a place you can raise your hand if you want to ask a question.
Hey, Kelly Anderson.
Yes, ma'am.
Talk to me about your question. About your autophagy. I've read about it some, but not enough to even remember. I know that makes me look like a dummy, but I don't mind looking like a dummy. Explain, what is this process? Do you think it happens on a meat diet?
I have no idea. I just wondered. Now, I've eat this way for 18 months, but before I was keto, and I did fast. But
okay.
I'm a ovarian cancer survivor, so
oh, wow.
Once every few months I do an extended fast, just because to make sure that my cells stay healthy. It's where you go without eating, and the unhealthy cells eat themselves. The self-feeding of the cells. So
this is considered a good thing. Is that what you're saying?
It is.
So we would hope that this still happens on a meat diet.
That's what I was curious about. I've never heard anyone talk about that. I don't mind doing it. It does feel good, but I like to eat too.
Yeah.
I'll speak to that just a little bit, Kelly, because Shabbatot was just speaking in the morning meeting, and for paleo medicine, I'm not sure if you're familiar with them, but they use a paleolithic ketogenic diet or a carnivore diet to treat a lot of things, including cancer. And he was actually mentioning that they don't fast any of their patients. So I would imagine that this type of fasting mimicking is also helping to clean up the cells, in a similar fashion.
Awesome. All right, I like that.
I just want to add to that they don't fast, but that staying in deep ketosis is really important to them therapeutically, so they have the 2-to-1 ratio of fat to protein to ensure deep ketosis. So ketosis is really important for cancer, probably for autophagy and something, but they don't actually fast, yeah.
Okay, that's awesome. That's good.
Hi, Martha. You have a question? We're not hearing you. I guess your microphone is muted.
Lower left-hand corner, there's a mute button.
Kelly, thanks for joining us. I have a question. I was wondering, when you get stressed or you get bored, do do you get more hungry? Or, like, for example, if you don't sleep, if you're stressed, if you're bored, do you ever get sugar cravings anymore, or meat cravings?
So when I am really bored, I do tend to just think about food because I guess I've got nothing else to think about. I will caveat here, I don't get bored that often because I'm a teacher and I have 3 young kids and I'm a little bit busy. So I don't just typically have a lot of time to sit around and get bored. But when I do sometimes think about food. And if I go to the fridge, I'll sometimes be thinking about food. So I think, oh, maybe I'm hungry. So I pull out a burger patty and sometimes I'm wrong. I taste it and I'm like, that does nothing for me. It's bland. It's boring. And if I have that thought, I don't want it. And I just put it back up and realize, no, girl, you just bored. So it does happen. I don't ever crave. Okay, I have one thing. I'd be lying if I didn't tell you this. I don't crave sugary stuff anymore at all, but I have one thing that I will never, I don't think, till the day I die, completely be over. And it's the idea of peanut butter. I know, the shame, but I have always there's something about the idea of peanut butter. So when I smell it, yeah, I kind of do want it. I don't eat it. I don't even lick the spoon. I wouldn't touch it. If I were to taste it, oh my gosh, it'd probably be game over. I just love peanut butter so much. My kids like peanut butter. Of course, we buy just the ground up peanut kind. There's nothing added but salt. But when I smell it, I'm like, oh my gosh, I love the smell of peanut butter. That is my one thing that I'll say I do actually miss.
It does smell good.
Anything else?
There's a question in the chat again. Let's see. If you could only eat one cut of meat for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Ribeye. Oh man, for my birthday, my husband cooked up. I mean, it was like the size of the dinner plate, thick, so much delicious fat on it. I ate every single bite, and then I helped finish off my youngest daughter's steak. I love ribeye so much. Chuck eye is like poor man's ribeye, so I'd take either one of those. I do, there's a little bit of a cost and prep. If somebody was going to grill for me and pay for it, I could eat ribeye every day until I die at age 172.
That makes sense. Okay, so tanning, did you ever tan? Does the sun do anything different to you since you're carnivore?
Yeah, I don't get sunburned as much as I used to. I also have noticed that mosquitoes hate me now. I used to be eaten up with bug bites in the summer, and I live in North Carolina, which is like a swamp in the summer. Mosquitoes, my kids, they still get eaten up. And sometimes they'll say, that's why we're going to stop eating that fruit. It's because, and I don't know if that's true, but I like that they have the theory. They can tell you if I am even nearby, I'm like mosquito repellent. Isn't that crazy? But I don't get burned. I tan fairly easily, but I think I kind of always did. But I did used to burn more easily than I do now. Like I said, I'm a teacher, so at field day, sometimes you're outside all day. And I would come in and just be roasted. And now I do not use sunscreen. I mean, it has to be like I am on the beach for 12 hours before I'll even think about sunscreen. And my husband will be roasted alive, and I won't have a sunburn.
That is amazing about carnivore.
I'll add a comment to that. Since that I find the same. I don't use sunscreen at all. And I find that it is different on carnivore. I definitely don't turn that red lobster look. I pretty much just tan, maybe a touch pink if I'm new to into the sun for a season. But I tan supposedly people say putting coconut oil on your skin is like a natural sunscreen if somebody feels they need to use a sunscreen a little bit. But I found a definite change in my tanning with carnivore.
Hey, Lisa, the day we came to your house in New Jersey, what did you serve? I remember it, but what was it?
I made 3 huge prime rib roasts.
Oh, I'm changing my answer. I would eat Lisa's prime rib roast every day forever. It was so good.
It was really good.
It was. I was a fairly new carnivore when I was at Lisa's house. It was definitely in my first 6 months.
Yeah, and it was so funny, Kelly, because the story is her in-laws live close to my home in New Jersey, and we were chatting on the forum. I said, oh my gosh, you're going to be 10 minutes away. You have to come over and share a steak with me. And so she said, that sounds great. And then next thing you know, people caught wind of this little mini meetup, and I ended up with 12 people at my house.
Oh, it was so fun.
It was so fun.
It was a good
Yeah, it was
day.
so
Charles
fun.
was there too.
Charles, yep. It was a fun time. I think that was definitely your first official meetup.
Yes, it was. Yep.
Have you ever done backpacking or camping? Do you have suggestions for food for backpacking?
I mean, I've never made pemmican, but I've definitely eaten it before. We used to have a guy on the forum who would mail out boxes of pemmican. I'm trying to remember now who that was. Oh, man, it was good. And I've also ordered from, oh, gosh, who sells the pemmican, Lisa? What's that company? Do you remember? I cannot remember. U.S. Meats, U.S. Wellness, that's it. U.S. Wellness Meats. They sell pemmican bars, and they'll last a really long time. Not as long as, like, legit homemade pemmican from what I've heard, but it's good. I ate a bunch of it when I was in the hospital having my first kid because the options were horrible. And so I just packed a bunch of pemmican and then would order bacon for the rest. Yep, there it is. U.S. Wellness Meats. Cool. Let's see. Thoughts on krill oil? I don't take any supplements, not even the ancestral ones, which I had never even heard of until like 2 weeks ago. I mean, you know, if somebody's taking them and says, wow, it really upped my carnivore game, cool, that's fine. As far as I know, it's ground up organs, which, okay, I got no beef with that, but I don't take anything.
Do you drink tea?
I would say maybe once a quarter. So maybe 4 times a year I'll order an unsweet tea where I'm just out at McDonald's, as I often am, and I think a tea sounds nice. I usually don't. It's okay. I don't mind the taste of an unsweet tea, but I don't really prefer it over water.
Oh, yeah.
I think Charles does drink a good bit of unsweet tea. I think he kind of enjoys that.
Well, I know it's running over on our meeting a little bit, so I'm going to say thank you for coming, Kelly, so much, and we sure appreciate it.
Thank you. I would stay longer, but I've got a 4 o'clock dental cleaning.
Yeah.
And I've already confirmed it, so I've got 15 minutes to get there. You all were fantastic and lovely. Thank you for showing up just to listen to me blabber. That's really nice.
Oh, thank you for coming.